In the story creation ecosystem, worlds are created by two separate, yet equally important groups. The worldbuilders, who envision the world and its intricacies, and the storytellers, who bring their world to life. The worldbuilders, who envision the world and its intricacies, and the storytellers, who bring their world to life. This is their podcast. Writing The Final Frontier. These are the short stories of the Bibliorbis podcast. Its several-hour mission: to create strange new worlds, to build new characters and new civilizations, to boldly go where no world builder has gone before.
Okay, we are now recording.
Yay.
So here's the start of the story, which is currently on screen, and there's the rest of it. So if you want to read it, you can pause for each of those times. That's the story that we're working from, that we're planning the rest of. And this is stuff that we already planned in a previous session.
So are we jumping straight to the last sentence of what we have so far, or?
Do it.
Okay, maybe
Thomas.
the last. Okay, maybe that's not enough context to
Do it.
work off of.
Do it.
Okay. Good.
So blah 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 blah. Good, Newen, good. Tang's initiator spoke in his mind. Now bring him. Tang hesitated again. He knew what he was supposed to do, but he couldn't help wondering whether it was truly right, whether this was truly David's salvation, or if it was actually the same purgatory they'd already tormented him with. Do it, Tang's initiator insisted. Okay, so that's where we're going from.
Let me take a bit.
And do you two
Okay,
remember? Do you two remember the rest of the story before that, approximately?
For the most part, yeah, I think so.
I seem to have forgotten it. I need cliff notes.
So, Cliff Notes. He has a bad dream, basically. He's the last person in the world. He kills the second... Well, technically he's one of the two last. He kills the last person in the world, and then he goes, "Oh no, I am evil." And then they send someone else in to save him. Save, in quotations. From that dream. And basically now he's being non-existed from the world. Unexisted.
Unexisted in the sense of, like, he's not dreaming anymore, or?
They're pulling him out of the dream and into the Ager Somniorum and going, now we're going to make you believe that Ager Somniorum is real, and so then you're going to fade from reality.
Oh, okay. So this David guy was someone who was already part of the cult then?
He was part of the cult, yeah, and then he was against the cult.
Okay.
And they went, no, you can't do that.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, Tang is aware of what he's gonna do, or
Vaguely.
did they tell him, like, yeah, bring him out of there and then he's fine?
Basically, they're just saying, we're saving him. You don't need to know anything else. We're just saving him.
Okay, so
They're literally going, I can't let you do that, Dave.
So you wrote this initial part of the story, right?
Yeah.
What was your intention, or what was your thought? Is Tang gonna bring him out of there, or is he?
Yes.
Well, I guess he's definitely gonna bring him out of there, but is he then gonna immediately realize, oh, that's not a good idea? This color isn't that great, or?
He'll realize that it wasn't a good idea, yes, but he won't actually take action to put him back in because he's still conflicted, and so David still ends up effectively dead in the real world.
Okay. Yeah,
Moral ambiguity, yay. And actual consequences for actions in a story, double yay.
Alright.
No, there's only one type of acceptable consequences for a story. The end of the world, obviously.
I mean, it's the end of someone's world.
But then that means that there are no consequences, because when you have a story that has the end of the world as the stakes, you just kind of go, well, there are no stakes then, are there? Because we know that there can't be consequences, other than maybe one or two people dying. So, end of the world stakes over and over, you just kind of go, yeah, but I know you're going to win because you cannot feasibly lose without the world ending, and narratively that's
Pretty
not
sure there
possible.
are some. Pretty sure there are some authors who just said, "Okay, fuck it, world is over."
I mean, I thought he was going in a different direction where, like, well, either they win or they won't live to worry about losing.
No, I was going in a narrative direction rather than the character direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of annoys me sometimes. But then it also annoys me when people say the Marvel Cinematic Universe has no consequences at all. You realize they killed Black Widow and Iron Man. And although Quicksilver was disposable anyway, that's not really a consequence.
I wonder who was affected by that death, to be honest.
Literally no one.
Yeah, when I saw it in the movie, I was like, oh, yeah.
I mean, I was watching the movie and I pretty much went, oh, you've got so many death flags for Hawkeye. I know you're not going to kill Hawkeye.
Yeah, true.
And so then I went, okay, who's disposable? I know that Wanda and Vision have a relationship in the comics. I know that all of the others are original Avengers, so you're not going to kill them. Well, I guess we know who's dying.
It was actually more like, duh, of course he's gonna die.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes it cheap, but then again, I don't know. Maybe it's because we're a bit more involved in how to structure narratives that we kind of see these kind of things
That's
faster
true.
than ordinary audience. So
That is true. It's kind of like Enola Holmes. Have either of you seen Enola Holmes?
nope.
Film? Okay, it's a Netflix film. People are praising it for being really good. It's basically a Sherlock Holmes spin-off. But there was a moment in it when she first attempted a martial arts move called the corkscrew. This is not a spoiler. She first attempts a martial arts move called the corkscrew, and from that moment, based on General Chekhov's gun mechanics, I knew exactly what the rest of the plot of the film was going to be. And that was less than a third of the way through the movie. And I knew exactly what the rest of the plot was going to be at that point, which is, people praised it for being amazing, but I just kind of went, well, it's a bit too predictable, isn't it? Like, it's good to be predictable. If people know where your story is going, then you kind of go, well, obviously you're doing something right. You're doing something that's sensible, but...
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue it's better than the alternative, which is just random bullshit appearing suddenly on the screen.
That is
or in the
true.
book,
It is.
so...
It's better than intentional subversion. Cough,
Yeah.
cough, Game of Thrones, cough.
Cough,
I mean, this
cough,
reminds
Star
me
Wars
of,
7,
like...
cough, cough.
Yes.
Oh, no, not 7, 8, sorry.
This reminds me of, like, I was going over something that Dana wrote, and, like, she asked for feedback, and I was like, So on one hand, a lot of the stuff here, like, it was really good. Like, I'm gonna say it right now, it was a really good story. But, like, something I was noticing is that, like, a lot of the stuff was a bit, like, you had, like, tonal differences between scenes, because it's, like, a play. So, like, you had one scene that was really happy, and then the other one that immediately starts, like, with something going wrong. And we entered this entire debate about how much do you need to hold the audience's hands, because, like, you know, if you hold it too much, then obviously they're just gonna go, like, you're holding our hand. This is not, like, you're not giving it your all. But then at the same time, like, there's this balance that you have to reach, because, well, you want to give your audience enough information for them to understand what's happening and even interpolate some stuff that's happening.
And also,
Yeah,
in a play as well, there's also the importance that you actually have to have actors on stage who you can't zoom in on. You can't do close-ups on actors in a play, so you do actually have to sometimes pretty much state what they're feeling.
Oh, obviously, yeah. There's also that, which is, like, a whole extra layer of fun.
No, that's why plays and movies, when people try to say that they're the same thing, you just kind of go, no, they're really not.
Yeah.
No.
They share a lot of things, but they have very unique problems.
They're both
I guess
visual
in
media.
general- Yeah, I guess in general theater is a bit more exaggerated in
Yeah.
parts.
Yeah,
It's more
Like,
exaggerated.
they're similar in the way, like in the way you format them, like fairly similar, a lot more similar than for example, a book in either one of those. But yeah, they have very weird problems.
Yeah, but people a lot of the time assume that they're the same just because they're both visual media, and you just go, no.
So, out of this tangent aside, do we want to go back to the actual story?
Let's go back to the actual story.
I mean, I love our tangents. I do enjoy them.
I mean, they're definitely more fun than the trigonometry variants. So, yeah.
Okay,
That
so
was a terrible joke.
I guess we need some quick notes first. Like what the next
So
part of the scene is going to be.
this is the... we don't really care about this bit. We care about this bit realistically. Although not the 20-page part. That was just someone suggested that it should be 20 pages somewhere previously. I don't know who it was. But we've had a status quo set by this assignment. We've had that. That's happened. And the end of the assignment, it seems morally wrong. We've had that. Well, we've had about half of that. We still need to have the other half of him going, is it not, to be or not to be? That is the question. Whether it is no, but yeah. And then, anyway, immediately after his trip, what we need next are these 3 bits, but we need to plan what the next part actually is. So we have his dreams reflecting his feelings of discontent, discomfort, moral ambiguity. And then the cult leaders immediately after going, loyalty. We must speak to you about loyalty. And then his surroundings reacting slightly because they are in Ager Somniorum at the time, because obviously the cult don't actually contact people directly, they contact them through dreams. And so that kind of tips off another cultist, and then we don't actually have anything after that.
I mean, anything after that I guess we can brainstorm it at the time, because it's pretty much open-ended in which direction it could go, so...
Yeah. I would like a happy ending, though. I don't care what people say, I like happy endings.
Honestly, I agree with that. We have enough bad
I
stuff
like them
in the
when they're
world.
well deserved, but I also see it as this weird thing where, because there's not a lot of authors that write like non-happy endings, or at least so
There
it's basically
are in
this thing where
dramas. In
it's basically
dramas,
this thing where I feel like somebody has to balance it out and write endings that are at least not the happiest to keep the audience, actually intrigued for the rest of the stories.
I mean, the Divergent series doesn't really have a happy ending. The main character just inexplicably dies.
Which series was that again? Was that with the
Divergent series.
Yeah, was that
The
the
one with-
series where people are like assigned to character traits or psychology?
Yeah, they're
traits?
assigned based on character traits, yeah. Which is a
Yeah,
terrible
okay.
way to do things, because basically you're saying, we're going to put all of the ambitious people in one place, so if someone's a bad guy, they're going to be surrounded by enablers. Great plan.
It's kind of like what's it called again?
Harry Potter?
No, more like what's it called? With these tributes which fight each other.
Hunger Games?
Hunger Games, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that is basically a system designed to fail, which is.
Yeah.
I mean, the story itself can be entertaining, but it has a bad aftertaste.
In
my opinion.
Divergent, it's really not. Like, the first Divergent book is decent, and then after that, everything goes downhill.
I guess the divergence in quality.
Yeah. It diverged to negative infinity, yeah. But yeah, basically.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, we can continue. So after the end of this, of the do it, I assume we just have a time skip of several hours after that.
Should we like at least hint that Thang put out his hand, or like hint that he did do it then before we do the time skip?
How about this? And so it was done. Just that.
Yep. But it starts with "and,"
Yes,
which I learned is terrible.
It's dramatic.
It's okay. No, I'm fine with it. It does fit.
You can do it when it fits and is dramatic.
All right. Where do we skip to then?
We would skip to basically him being conflicted about it and going, did I do the right thing? Did I not? I'm going to have a Hamlet-style monologue now.
Okay, but he's awake then, or is he going to be in Ager Somniorum for that?
I'm not sure. I am not sure.
I would think it would be more fitting for him to be awake, because then he's like not afraid to think properly.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Because if he is in his dream, he would, like, I would assume that subconsciously he wouldn't want to think about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, just
when he's in a dream and is aware.
Listening in, effectively.
Yeah. And maybe he doesn't know that himself yet, but it's like part of the reason for it.
I enjoy being able to draw ampersands. A lot of people can't. They just go, how do you do that? Just go, I do an 8. And then cut it off.
I mean, you just need to train it a bit.
It's an ampersand.
I like drawing quantity brackets.
Oh,
that's the right term for it.
Those?
Yeah.
Curly brackets.
I like to draw those.
Curly brackets are nice. You get a feeling of superiority when you draw those. Yeah.
Especially if you see someone who can't draw it for their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm one of those people that give you the feeling of superiority.
I've been drawing so many of them in the last few years. It's yeah. I enjoyed it though. So.
Yeah, when I was in high school in year 8, we actually had a teacher who made us just keep drawing them over and over and over until we could do them perfectly every time.
Meanwhile, my hands took a different direction of just, so we can't draw many things. How about we make it we can't draw anything, and then you won't feel so bad. Yeah.
I mean, I can't draw. I can only write letters very well.
Yeah, so I just found out how surprised people would be when they learn that you can type math normally. Because I had to. It's not that bad.
Lambda. Backslash. Sorry, I know I don't need a backslash for that. Frequency. Oh, yeah. No, that's not E. That's C. Yeah. That's the LaTeX for it. Oh, sorry, it would actually be like this, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so I typed math for tests, etc. So for my finals, they wouldn't allow me to use Google Docs because obviously it connects to the internet, apparently, even though no, Google Docs has an offline mode. So yeah, so they wouldn't let me use it for finals, but I used Google Docs for everything but the finals, and on the finals I used Word. It's really not that bad.
Yeah, but LaTeX better than Word.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Google Docs has some version of LaTeX integrated into it.
It does. You can actually activate a thing that's LaTeX format. But people make fun of LaTeX because it looks like a meme, because the way it's written is like that. It looks like a meme format thing.
Yeah, but it's really convenient.
It is very convenient. because you just get to go backslash blah blah blah, done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's awake
Latex,
and he's conflicted.
Yeah. So what can we scratch off from our to-do list there then? Was it the third point?
It was the second point. End of assignment seems morally wrong.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, so his confliction or his conflict is about the moral ambiguity for him then.
Yeah.
Okay.
About moral ambiguity of functionally murdering someone.
I gotta say this part is gonna be a hell of a task to write.
Because that's the thing, he is functionally committing murder. Because technically they don't die, technically they just fade out of the real world and in Ager Somniorum, but there's no way back.
Is
Not
it really
even-
murder if they never existed in the first place?
I mean, they did exist.
They did exist, it's just their physical form ceases to exist.
Hmm.
And so now they'll just age and die in Ager Somniorum, jumping between people's dreams.
Actually, why I said it's gonna be... Well, it's gonna be difficult for me to write something for that, because he's gonna be on his own, right? So it has to be a monologue.
Yeah, just kind of has to be his thoughts.
Yeah.
Internal monologue, yeah.
And I personally prefer to, like, do dialogue to delve into characters, but...
It's quite weird. It's called dialogue, but it can be between many characters. If it's between many characters, surely it should be polylogue.
I guess.
Why do we not call it polylogue?
I
Do you
guess,
really have
well,
to ask?
Well, most of the times it is just between two characters, isn't it?
Yeah.
But why would
I
you
mean,
not call it polylogue?
You rarely get actual three-way dialogue. Or rather, maybe it's just a shortcut that I usually take, but like, I always try to make sure that at most you have like two characters talking and then one character occasionally interjecting, and then you just switch like the two main characters talking right now according to like the part of the discussion you're in, to try and minimize having to write all the time like, oh, he said that and he said that and he said that and she said that.
That's true.
Yeah.
I guess when you're in a physical situation, not an online situation. In an online situation, you're talking to everyone, but in a physical situation, you tend to just look at one person and address them specifically. So it is kind of always between two people.
Yeah.
Just those two people switch.
Yeah.
Just like
And it's like,
if you have
yeah,
three
and
people in the
occasionally
room.
you get like a character interjecting, and then this character's interjection now becomes like the new main talking person. Like, yeah.
Yeah, like you could have this person addresses this person goes back. You have back and forth, and then this person addresses this person addresses this person, then this person. And it's always just between two people specifically addressing each other. You never have someone addressing... You usually don't have someone addressing both people simultaneously in a real conversation.
Yeah, I think a great and hilarious example of that is in Danganronpa, because basically the entire concept is, so it's split into two. In one part, it's just people running around doing stupid things, and then somebody dies, and they have like a trial between all the characters that are currently alive. And so what you usually get happening is that a lot of characters will throw stuff around. And every time something is thrown around that basically puts a certain character under like scrutiny or something like that, then you focus on that character, and that character like talks back and forth with the accuser, and then occasionally you get another person interjecting with their own accusation, and then back and forth between them. And so even though it looks like a huge mess, there's really never more than two people talking at the same time, with maybe a third person interjecting and then becoming one of the two people talking.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I actually want to make a point that's kind of when it's bad, when you have multiple people and you're trying to make them all talk at the same time. Okay, I'm going to use a really bad example right now because I'm using an example from one of the worst pieces of literature ever written. Twilight.
Twilight?
So
It's too easy, man.
I have been through the torture of having read all of the Twilight novels.
Honestly,
so that no
I
one else has
also
to.
read all of them. I don't think they're as bad, but they're certainly not good.
So then you would know that there are scenes in them. There are scenes.
Yes, there are scenes.
Where they
There
have
are scenes in that book.
everyone in the Cullen family in the same room. And usually it's just a conversation between two people. And then you just suddenly have other people talking and just addressing the whole group. And that's what, aside from the two, I'm going to just do that until I get to one of these. There we go. So basically, let's say it's just these two people who are good circles. Good circles are talking. And then once in a while, someone will interject and they'll just address the whole group. And that'll happen with each of these secondary characters that are interjecting interjecting the conversation between these two. And so what you actually end up getting is that it just looks like the author is intentionally trying to fabricate a situation in which everyone gets a turn to talk.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not familiar with the books anymore. It's been a while since I read them, but is the topic of the two main characters basically about the whole group as well? Or is it just they're talking about what to make for dinner and then someone, oh yeah, let's all do X, Y, Z?
Well, it's not usually about the whole group. No, it's usually about what one character should do and whether it's for the benefit of themselves or not. And so it's pretty much just always about a single character because all of the characters in Twilight are selfish. But usually it's... So, for example, it might be this character is pregnant. And they're talking about whether they should abort the child or not because it will literally kill everyone. Well, they think it will kill everyone if they allow it to be born. And so they're going, should I abort it or not? And then it's literally just a conversation between the two parents, and then they'll interject every so often. And it just feels like a fabricated situation in which they're just forcing each character to have a line, even though their lines are barely relevant.
Yeah.
I have that character in this room. He has to say something.
Yeah.
Which is not true.
Yeah. You can have
Go ahead.
You can have a character who is just a bystander. That is absolutely possible. This character, instead of being a black talkie character, can be a red not talkie character.
Sometimes silence is gold.
Another thing is also you can do character grouping, which is a very cheap method, but it gets the job done. Where, like, instead of two characters having two characters interject, each of them once, you have one character interject, and then another character build on top of that. And then if you really want all your characters to talk to show how they feel about this situation, two birds with one stone. You can even have them go like in a circle, or have like a little... So what do you all think? I think this. I think this. I build up on what they said and think this.
Yeah, so basically what you're doing in that instance is you're effectively making it like a debate topic, and you're just going, I'm splitting the room here. And so this is effectively a single individual, and this is effectively a single individual.
Exactly.
And
because
so
you don't need them to be unique individuals.
Yeah. And it is still a dialogue between two groups, and each group is acting effectively as an individual.
Exactly.
I actually made use of that dynamic in a chapter that I wrote last night for, and by last night I mean like 24 hours ago because it is nighttime right now. So last night I wrote a thing where someone is sitting between their two parents. Other parent be a proper circle. Seriously? There we go. So the person's sitting between their two parents, and the parents are effectively acting as a single individual.
Oh, this kind of situation.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I'm sure no one has ever been in this kind of situation, right?
No, not at all. Never.
Yeah.
But yeah, I make use of that dynamic where you can have multiple characters act effectively as a single individual in a conversation.
Yeah. Because they don't all need to be individuals. They just need to get the point across.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not always there
That's a
because they
terrible
want them
sentence out of context.
You don't need
Like,
to be
then
individual.
You don't need to be an individual. What?
Yeah, you don't
Yeah, but,
matter. Only your opinion matters.
They don't, like... If a character is there, it's not necessarily because I want them to talk. It's because they need to be there. If they're there because I want them to talk, then a lot of times there's a different problem. So, yeah.
Sometimes they're just there because they live there.
Gotta say, I kind of feel like we're trying to avoid to continue the short story.
We are not. We are not. We will continue. Okay. So he's awake and conflicted. And he's conflicted about the moral ambiguity of functionally committing murder. And so we need some elaboration on why it is essentially murder.
Yeah,
It's only
and-
functionally murder.
Yeah, so and how did he find out? We probably have to put it in there as well.
Well, basically, it would probably just be in the teachings of the cult. That these are the dynamics of Ager Somniorum. They just teach you. Because as you progress through the cult, they teach you more and more. And so he's at the level where he's actually being told to effectively kill someone. And so he knows what's occurring. Why am I being that?
No, I'm not sure how easily he would be, or like how open he would be to think about the moral ambiguity if he's totally aware of what he's done. And
Well, the thing is, he doesn't know that it's murder. He's pretty much just going, oh, okay, we're just shifting them to a different plane of existence. Because he knows that they fade out of the regular world, but he doesn't know whether to consider that murder or not.
Okay. I guess we should make a point that the teachings of the cult emphasize it of not being murder then.
Okay. So teachings of cult represent process as rebirth.
Yeah. I mean, what cult will usually just tell its people flat out we're killing people? It's always, we're moving them to a better place. They're where your turtles are, Charlie.
It's a great journey.
Yeah, it's like Willy Wonka. Willy Wonka goes, I am not murdering these children. I'm just blowing them up.
In the book, did the children actually die, or?
No, they're just left with horrible disfigurements and disabilities for the rest of their lives.
At least
that's
they're not
too
dead.
bad.
Classic Roald Dahl, basically. Just, it's entirely reasonable because we didn't kill them. We just left them deformed and disabled for life.
Hey, they're not dead.
Yeah. You're not dead, be thankful.
Exactly, it could always be worse.
I think one of the children actually got away relatively well, if I remember correctly. Like, not too badly.
Yeah, Charlie.
Aside from Charlie, I don't think anything happened to him at all, right?
No, not really.
I think there was one child who was like not too affected by it. Ah, well.
Well, yeah, Veruca only just got kind of thrown down a rubbish chute, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, Palpatine survived more, so he should be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, they all survived, so.
They did, but they were just horribly disfigured.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. How do we get the like scene change from his monologue to him going to sleep again?
He goes to bed. He goes, I don't want to think about this anymore. This is so horrible to think about. I'm going to sleep now. Because I can escape through sleep. Oh, right, I'm part of a sleep cult. No, I can't.
Also, when, like this contemplation of his, when is that gonna take place? Because he was asleep, I guess.
Probably he's been thinking about it the whole of the day, but now he's got nothing else to think about to distract him from it, so now it's just right at the forefront of his mind. As he's almost in bed.
So probably like what, 9 p.m. around this time, or?
Yeah, let's go for that. 9 p.m. ish. Scene change from... That's not how you write an M, that's how you write an N. Really? From going to bed. I'm writing at a really horrible angle at the moment, so...
I can read it.
Yeah, but my writing's usually better than this.
Mine's usually worse than this.
Llama. Like, my writing is usually like that level of good. Which is better than this. Like murder here. Murder's written well. That doesn't say much about me saying I write murder well. Don't write anything else well, but I write murder well.
Just a good crime author.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the
so now
end
we
of
have
assignment?
to have his dreams reflecting his feelings.
Oh, what's his like day job? Does he have a day job? Because
well, the assumption was that he's a immigrant into some other country from Vietnam after or during the Vietnam War. So probably he's a laborer, presumably.
Did we decide on how old he was in the story?
23.
I think we did.
He is 23.
Huh?
He's 23.
23.
The reason for that being that the main character of the actual Ager Somniorum novel is also 23, except they're 23 in the 2020s. Rather than 23 in the 1980s-ish.
Let's see, when no more. Okay, so the story takes place when? About like in the 80s or 90s? Like the short story, I mean.
When was the Vietnam War?
It ended in 1975 and it started in 1955, so...
Okay, so probably late 70s, early 80s.
Okay, let's say... It's 1983 now?
1983, okay. I'm happy with that. Did anything significant happen in 1983? You want to look that up, just in case.
Yeah, I probably... 1989 would be a date that would be significant because that's the fall of the Berlin Wall.
No. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. That was a horrible Reagan impression.
Maybe we could also make it like 1988, so it would be 1 year prior to it.
That would also be the bicentenary of the landing of the first fleet in Australia. 1988. Because the landing of the first fleet was 1788, so that would be the bicentenary of... There were seriously big celebrations that year. I have a $5 coin from that year.
I'm trying to look if there's significant events.
Nobody's questioning the fact that I have a $5 coin.
Well, obviously. Who wouldn't?
But yeah, it is a coin that is technically worth $5 but cannot be spent because it is a commemorative coin. It's very weird.
So its effective value is 0.
Yes.
I think there's a €0 thingy as well, but it actually says 0 on it.
It says $5 on this one, and it's made of bronze.
I think the Zimbabwe-Rhodesian Civil War breaks out in 1983, but that's not really relevant to our story, isn't it?
I just go, Doesn't matter, it's not going to affect this guy.
Yeah. I mean, we can just keep it in 1983 if it's just one boring year that doesn't have any really...
It's not of significance. The reason I was going was just because I don't want there to be anything of significance that will interfere.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think I've read that AIDS as a disease was more publicly known or got more recognition in this year, but that's also not like massively important to the story, I would say.
Google Freddie Mercury death.
It's Freddie Mercury.
And just tell me the year.
He died in 1991. So
okay, so that would be when AIDS would become really prevalently known. Because he died of complications caused by AIDS. He didn't die of AIDS. You can't really die of AIDS.
Yeah, it just makes your body a lot more
susceptible to everything.
Susceptible to things,
Yeah, I guess it was first discovered in 1983 or something like that. Or I read that some newspaper mentioned it. So
the fact that it came from monkeys is concerning, though. Because it's an STI. It's sexually transmitted, and it came from monkeys.
Is it only possible to be sexually transmitted?
Oh no! If you get it directly into an open wound or something.
But even then, it raises some questions.
It does. It does.
I mean, didn't it originate in Africa? Or am I misinformed about that?
Well, it came from monkeys, so it had to either be Africa, Asia, or America. So
I remember correctly,
it has to be Earth.
If I remember correctly, it's believed to have originated from a trip that a few people made to Africa, that monkeys in the area there had it, and then supposedly when they got back to the US, they brought it with them. That's one story I heard.
So it was Americans.
That still sounds very concerning to me, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess 1983 is pretty good year. Is somewhat unremarkable. Probably someone's gonna listen at some point to this and goes, "What? There was this very important thing here and there," and it's.
Oh. How dare you? How dare you overlook my 1983?
Exactly.
Someone's gonna watch and go, "I was born in 1983. How dare you? That was the greatest event that's ever occurred."
National News. Apparently in 1983, the first female astronaut was part of a space crew, so
I mean, do we care about that?
I don't know how much of a news event it was back then, so
Oh, it probably would have been really big.
yeah, it was June, on the 18th of June, so I guess if we settle it like a month later, it should be.
Yeah, July, August-ish.
Yeah. And even then, I mean, I guess it's something that he would be able to hear in the news, but it's not something that's gonna
We don't
like,
even need to
impact it.
specifically state the year anyway. We just need it for
Yeah.
context for our own writing.
Yeah.
Just so no one
Yeah.
grabs a smartphone. Just opens the drawer and grabs a smartphone and calls someone. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
We just don't want anachronisms. Like
True.
Enola Holmes again. Enola Holmes, set in the year 1900. There are plastic shotgun cartridges in that movie.
I guess there shouldn't be any plastic there.
Polymers were first, the first industrial scale polymerization techniques were discovered in the 1920s. Well, actually in 1920 exactly. Which is why I just kind of go, no, you can't have industrial plastics in 1900. You are 20 years too early. So yeah, we don't want anachronisms like that in this story.
Yeah, because it's set in a somewhat realistic world. If the only way that that's acceptable is if you already establish that your world is similar to ours, but with a different enough history that you can let that slide.
Yeah, but things like Enola Holmes is supposed to actually be in our world.
Yeah.
And so you just go, that's an anachronism. I cannot allow that to pass. You should have either paper or wax as your shotgun cartridge. Plastic is unacceptable.
Unacceptable. So, how do we make his dream reflect his inner turmoil?
Well, I was thinking like kind of rapidly changing scenery, weird static in the sky, things like that.
Or you can go like the full-on torture path, which is just, have the dream show a situation very similar to one he is experiencing, slightly different, and then constantly making fun of him for picking the wrong choice.
So basically a random horror sequence.
No, not a random horror sequence. A very well planned torture sequence. Worse.
So a randomly appearing thriller sequence.
No.
I guess.
No, I'm saying in terms of what the reader is seeing. For the reader,
In
it
terms
just
of what
randomly
the reader is
appears.
seeing? I mean, in terms of what the reader is seeing, then I guess it should probably be something along the lines of just starts off feeling eerily similar to to a past scene, and then eventually they see that the entire thing was basically a play on that previous scene.
So basically, we want a play on that initial thing. Where'd my mouse go? There it is. A play on that initial thing of, I just murdered someone and I am David. I am David, that's the name of the book already. But basically, so he's taking the position of David and he's dreaming that up and going, oh no, this is so horrible.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
so
even
make it.
literally he himself comes into his own dream and is going, you chose wrong.
Another thing you could do is that he doesn't start the dream right at the start of this entire thing. When he starts the dream, he's already quite a bit into this entire thing. So basically we catch up with him on the situation, and then as we catch up more and more, we figure out that, oh, this is eerily similar.
Also, I guess like start out with something like he's kneeling on the ground in a basically shattered world.
Yeah.
Just start out with that.
Good work.
And just look around and there's no one else there, and there's the blue fire and the blood-red rivers of liquid sulfur.
I've got a question about how the overarching story is gonna continue from it, though. Is he gonna wake up from his dream, or do we like have one of the cultists pull him out of that dream, or
Well,
is
he
he
would.
waking up in Ager Somniorum after being shocked within his dream and trying to escape it, or something like that?
Well, I would think that we would just kind of have a direct scene jump to a cult meeting after that, where the cult meeting, the cult leaders are giving a speech on loyalty, because they can detect the emotions and conflicts of all of their members.
Okay, so we have the dream. How is the dream gonna end? Is it gonna end with, like, kind of like how nightmares end? You're shocked and then you wake up? Or is it ending with him realizing that he's conflicted about it and he doesn't want to be in there anymore?
I guess kind of let it end in the same way, I guess, with as a nightmare, with just kind of you get a falling sensation and then suddenly you wake up.
Yeah, I would prefer that ending as well. And maybe he could have the realization about whether he's loyal to the cause or not in the meeting, and then that's when he's really getting scared.
Yeah. So, meeting with speech about loyalty. Just going, loyalty is something that we value here in Lex Deorum. I mean, you're going into an organization called Lex Deorum, which is literally Latin for the law of the gods. Just kind of going, are you sure you want to be? Are you sure these are the good guys? Because I'm pretty sure.
Does he know what that means?
Probably not. It's the 1980s. There is no internet. He can't look it up.
Yeah, so could be. Oh, that's an interesting name. That sounds cool.
Yeah. It has an X in it. Everything with an X in it sounds cool.
Yeah.
I say that, and then I realize that xenophobia has an X in it.
I can just imagine Miran hearing that sentence and laughing his ass off. Just like with that specific like Warhammer picture of let us celebrate what unites us all, xenophobia.
Yeah.
Such a good quote.
Oh, god damn it. Quick question about how he joined the cult, by the way. Was he contacted by them, or did he, like, in quotation marks, fall out of his dream and then he got picked up by them in Ager Somniorum? Because I guess
he would be
it's gonna change the
contacted
dynamic.
by them. So the way Lex Deorum recruits is they have people around the world who basically just look out for loners, effectively, people who are alone and seem like they just don't fit in, and so they find them and they approach them in their dreams and go, come and join us. And so unless you are one of the higher order members of the cult, one of the recruiters or something, you never actually know where any of the other cult members are physically in real life.
So basically, like you said, they approach the people that are like loners, and I was just like, so prime cult material, fair enough.
I mean, yeah. They're a cult. They recruit like cults.
True.
I guess we... One thing I'm not sure about the cult yet is how do they get material gains out of their members? Or is that not something that they're interested in? Because A lot of cults usually exploit their members so that the cult leader can profit from it.
Well, the exploitation is power. So what they're exploiting from the people is power, because the more people they have access to the emotions and desires of and the dreams of, the more power they have over Ager Somniorum, and the more they can actually do in the real world.
Oh, okay. So they use the power of the people to... Is manipulate Ager Somniorum the right word? Or
Well,
just to
they use it as a tool. They utilize it as a tool, yeah. So like they can draw things out of Ager Somniorum that from people's dreams into the physical world. They fade away after a time, but the people they're presenting those things to don't know that, so they can create fraudulent currency, or they can say, look, we have a bomb, we can explode you. I mean, they can't, but
yeah,
they can't, but you don't know that. I mean, they literally just pulled a nuclear warhead out of midair. You're just going, okay, I'll do what you want. Or if they're in a tight situation, they could literally just pull out a knife and stab you with it, because they're physically tangible. So, although I'm thinking they would mostly use it for financial fraud.
I mean, it is the most profitable crime.
Yeah.
Well,
it's also way less risky, so...
It's either that or selling organs on the black market.
Yeah. But yeah, pretty much their main thing, I think, would just be they grab money out of Ager Somniorum, give it to people, and then after a bit of time it just fades away. And the people go, oh no, we've been robbed. And then Lex Deorum goes, well, it wasn't us. We gave you the money. Why would we rob our own money? And so obviously then they'd only pay for things in cash, which is basically all there was in the 1980s anyway.
Yeah, I was just thinking, because if they're primarily looking for loaners, that in and of itself wouldn't give them a lot of material gains, I would guess.
Yes, but it gives them power. Because the actual devotion to their cause actually gives them more imaginative power, because they can tap into the imaginations of those people. And so they can use them and pretty much add them to their own imagination, so they have more imaginative power. More imaginary power. That's the weirdest sentence. They have more imaginary power.
But the real question is, could they beat Goku?
I mean, they could just trap Goku in Ager Somniorum, convince him that Ager Somniorum was real, and then he'd be stuck there and they'd go bye. So yeah, they could beat Goku. Until
I'm
Goku...
sure Dragon Ball Z fans wouldn't want to hear that.
Until Goku just pulled out one of his classic Mary Sue moves.
Okay. So we're at the point with his speech about loyalty.
Yeah, one of the cult leaders going, loyalty.
Okay. I guess, what's the central religious narrative of Lex Deorum, though?
It's pretty much just, we can give you good dreams. We can make your dreams good, and we can give you a good afterlife, because they are well aware it is actually a fact in this universe, although most people are not aware of it, is a fact that after you die you go to Ager Somniorum. That is not a debatable thing, it is a fact. And so they are saying that we will give you a good afterlife in Ager Somniorum when you die. We will give you a path into heaven, effectively.
Okay, but would they link that message to, like, say, Christianity, and they basically say the leaders, we are, I don't know...
They would find a way, I think, to syncretize with any religion.
Okay.
So basically just like, oh, well, Ager Somniorum is actually heaven and hell. Everything that's not on Earth is Ager Somniorum. And so you're just getting a taste of purgatory every night.
Or heaven.
Or heaven, yeah. Or hell.
Yeah. Okay.
Basically, you're getting a taste of this every night, but we can make sure that you go to heaven because we are in contact with God, if it's Christianity. They can basically just say...
I would agree with your point, though, that they don't even have to say, yeah, that's God, or that's Allah, or whoever, because they could just say, well, whether these entities exist or not, we're here, this is basically hell or heaven, and we have the keys to make whatever we want it to be, and we can show you how you can do it as well. So
yeah. Also, they give you a thing that they say, we can allow you to speak with your dead relatives. And so they won't actually teach them how to access the deceased person part of Ager Somniorum, but they know how. And so they can just bring people there and go, well, if you try to leave us, we will never bring you back here again. You will never speak with your dead relatives again. Now you're addicted to our product.
That would make sense, yeah.
Meanwhile, I may or may not have made a shit meme on the loyalty speech. Just because of the way you said it, I had to.
Loyalty.
Okay, where are we in our planning for the short story then?
So we have hit the thing of they're having a meeting and they're having a speech about loyalty.
Oh, maybe we can make an arrow going from that then says realization of his what do you want to call it? Disbelief in it, or doubts about the organization?
So realization of Lex Deorum's what's the word?
Authoritarianism?
No, I was thinking of a different thing of like they're not a genuine thing. They are kind of lying about I would like to say disingenuity, which is a word, but it's a horrible word.
Realization of Lex Deorum being a cult.
Yeah. Cult status. That's fair.
I mean, it kind of sounds dumb, but like a lot of people who are in the cult probably wouldn't classify their cult as a cult. So,
like Scientology, please do not sue us.
I mean, I wouldn't say Scientology is a cult, not because it isn't, because you don't want to.
It's because you don't want to get sued or suicided. Or just assassinated.
Kurt doesn't want to commit unalive.
Or monetarily bankrupt forever. Because they will attack you with their money. Yeah.
But then again, they're not too strong in my country, so I guess I get a pass.
Yeah, they basically... I don't think they have much power in Australia, either.
So we have one center in here. It's weird. We even have a few members, but I don't know, it's really Scientology light. Like everything we brought from America. It's like it's outdated even in relation to America. And it's kind of smaller. Significantly smaller.
Yeah.
Have they grown in power in America, or have they declined a bit? Because I feel like it's the latter.
They're at a rather steady spot, aren't they?
Yeah, they're pretty steady. They just funnel money away from their members, effectively.
Yeah. Allegedly.
Allegedly, yes. You can't sue us now, we said allegedly.
I mean, we can always change the credits. I mean, that's what South Park did. Kind of worked.
Yeah.
Such a brilliant move.
So
this affects the surroundings
yeah.
in the dream, or
So because the cult meetings are actually in Ager Somniorum.
Hmm.
So your emotions and things like that can affect your surroundings even in other people's dreams.
So is the meeting in a dream?
It's in a dream
That is
in
in.
Ager Somniorum, yeah.
Okay, so it's not like just in Ager Somniorum and they.
Yeah, it's not in Ager Somniorum proper. It's in Ager Somniorum, one of the cult leaders' crystals.
Okay.
So they have the power. And so that would mean that one of the other cult members just kind of goes, "You are disloyal."
So how does it affect his surroundings? Because I would guess, well, not guess. My first impression of it would look like, I don't know, something like he's freeze or like frost is covering his skin. Something that's kind of subtle, but if you
I was
standing
thinking
close
something
to
like
it,
that, yeah. Like maybe he's standing on grass with some flowers in it, and the flowers and grass just kind of start to die and frost over a little bit.
yeah. So
Or
something
something
that's
like that.
subtle enough that not everyone notices, but like
Yeah.
the guy right next to you.
The guy right next to you will kind of just look down and go, "Hold up."
That doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it kind of just like gets side eye. That's not how that should be. Gets side eye from another cultist. Because he is technically a cultist.
So, does Thang realize that he gets the side eye, or does he not? Because that
Well,
it
it's
kind of
third
plays
person
into his
perspective.
characterization.
And I think he probably would notice.
Okay. Because then we have to decide if he does notice, is he panicking and like immediately trying to break out of the dream, or is he trying to play it off cool and just, oh, well, I guess that's happening. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Because if he's trying to escape head over heels, he's probably more of a, well, not whimsical, but how would you say it?
Very conspicuous.
I would say more anxious.
Yeah.
And if he tries to play it off cool, I would see him as a character that's more well, either he's too anxious to do anything about it and just hopes that it's that the person isn't going to do anything, which could also be the case, or he's confident enough to try and stick out the situation and get a better opening to escape.
I guess too anxious would make sense. Like he's too anxious to actually leave the situation because he's still slightly conflicted, and then just as the other person is noticing that some weird things are happening, then suddenly the meeting just kind of ends. They finish their speech. Cult leaders finish their speech and go, "Okay, that's it."
Pop, and then they get thrown out of the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would make more sense. True.
Meeting ends as Thang is considering whether to flee.
Okay, are we already at the end of our points?
Yes,
or?
we are at the end of our points.
Ooh, okay. Now
So-
the interesting part begins, I guess.
Yeah, what actually happens from here.
Oh, whoa! I see a major literary parallel we could draw if we bring the setting from 1983 to 1984.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
1984, which was written in 1948, and then he actually just
Yeah.
switched the two numbers around.
Yeah, that's how I managed to remember the proper book title.
I just
Okay.
remember it rolls off the tongue, and because it's said every 2 days or something. Because
Yeah.
every 2 days somebody else says we're in 1984 now, for the past 30 years.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think 2020 is a good contender for that. Like, for replacing that.
I mean,
2020
on the
is kind of...
dictatorship front, less so, unless you're unless you're from Belarus, or China, but
Or Iran.
Iran's situation is weird because it's one of those attempted dictatorships, but they're not that good at it. So they're trying their best, okay? They're really trying their best. But it's not working.
I mean, they're
Because-
good enough at it for it to not
I
collapse,
mean,
but... Yeah, I get
It's a
what you're saying.
constant collapse. It's just that this constant collapse is very slow.
Maybe you are closer to the actual situation, so I guess I'm gonna go with whatever you're
They're
saying.
they're doing a Minecraft boat trick. They're just constantly getting in and out of the boat as it falls down to the ground in Minecraft. So it just slows it.
You don't even need to constantly get in and out. You can literally just put it on the floor once you when you're about to land, and then land in that.
Yeah, but I'm talking about because it's in constant collapse.
Well,
Iran
I guess,
Okay.
yeah.
collapse. But they're
now that we've-
slowing it down.
Now that we've drawn the parallel to 1984, how are we going to progress the story from here on out? Because 1984 doesn't really end with that much of an happy ending. So
We're having a happy ending, goddammit. In the actual novel, it's that the major plot is that the main character is in a coma and dying due to a car crash. And they can't actually, and then their consciousness, the reason they're in a coma is because their consciousness is stuck in Ager Somniorum because they're conflicted in themselves. And so they can't actually wake up until they resolve that conflict. And so if they don't resolve their own personal conflict of their own crisis of identity, then they will die.
Okay, that's for the main storyline.
Yeah, that's for the actual novel. Which is set sometime post-pandemic. So I have no actual set date for it. It's just in Australia sometime after the pandemic ends.
The pandemic ends for Australia or ends in general? Because
I mean, the pandemic's already ended in Australia. Like, we're done.
yeah, unless border control seriously fucks up, you'll
Yeah.
Wouldn't it
pretty
be
much safe.
easier to just place it somewhere in 2018 before the whole thing starts?
I could, but then I'd have to deal with anachronisms in technology, and I don't want to do that.
I don't think that 2018 is that much different to 2020 when it comes to technology, isn't it?
Well,
You don't even have to necessarily have it.
the main character has a PhD in stellar structure and evolution, and so there are recent discoveries that have happened in 2020 and 2019. I would like to include them in the story, but I can't if it's in 2018.
Why do you have to necessarily have it as an exact set date and not
I
a
don't.
slightly?
I'm not having a set date. Basically, I'm just saying it is post-pandemic. Pandemic's over. It's happened. It's sometime in the 2020s.
Oh, specifically because of the things discovered throughout the pandemic in particular.
It's due to the things that have been discovered this year and last year, yeah. And so I can't actually put it in 2020 because there's a pandemic. And the issue is that there is actually one of the secondary characters actually visits the house of another character. who they have personally never visited before, and so you can't actually do that.
So, the question about our short story here is, what kind of motivating factor would Thang have to... Oh, okay. Well, I guess I know what his motivating factor would be to try and go and fight the cult. Because if he doesn't, he would
Then-
eventually just get
Davided.
disintegrated.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Unalived.
Yeah.
Not killed. Unalived.
Huh. Okay.
You have been
But he's gonna have to
demoted
fight on his
from-
own then, right?
Yeah, he will be, if he does not succeed, he will be demoted from life.
Your free trial of living has ended.
Yes. Well, I mean, living's not free. You still have to have food and stuff.
It's
the
free if you're
question-
brave enough.
The question then is, how do we go about that? Because going with the assumption that the cult has more power within Ager Somniorum because there are more people, wouldn't he have to kind of start his own cult just to be
Basically,
able to
I
compete
guess
with
he
them?
would, yeah. He would have to start a counter cult. This is starting to sound like a novel rather than a short story.
To be fair, this and the thing for Barshin Wars,
Yeah.
does that sound? Yeah.
Caution was it?
Yeah, that also sounds more like a novel than a short story. But I mean, I'm in no hurry. We can keep working at it.
Eventually,
If
we
it
just
ends
end
up-
up with 100,000 words.
I mean, that's not too bad.
So we just
Just
wrote
gonna take a few years probably at this speed we're going. But
At the speed we're going, it would take a decade.
how long is the initial part that you wrote?
594 words.
594. Let's say it's 500 for easy math.
It's closer to 600.
And okay, 600. And it took us what, a month to write it?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not
so-
liking where this stuff is going.
Well,
So
it would take us about 100.
Too much.
It would take us about 167 months then to write the whole book. If it's
Which is-
100,000 words.
Which is about 15 years.
Yeah, 14 years about.
Yeah.
So a bit over a decade actually.
Yeah, and by the time that you get to like with books like this, you get the problem where by the time you finish, you already need to re-edit it because
Yeah.
it took you so long to make.
Well, to be fair, it sounds more not to me. It doesn't sound like one book. It actually sounds like a series, if I'm being completely honest.
No.
Although I guess we could kind of speedrun it.
Like an entire thing of him going, I need to fight against Lex Deorum. I need to start an institution, raise awareness. Oh god, it's sounding like GURPS series.
Smoke Exorcists will happen eventually when the pandemic is over, for fuck's sake.
I guess the
I
only
can't
other
go out
option.
in film if I can't go out.
I guess the only other option to avoid this would be to have a mechanic that allows him to leverage his own dreams more effectively than Lex Deorum can.
Well, yeah, you have more power in your own dreams than other people do, generally.
But I mean, why would... Oh, okay, maybe he finds a way to envelop the dreams of Lex Deorum cultists within his own. So, for example, we have these two crystals. One is the dream of a cultist, and then there's the dream of him. And his crystal just gets closer to it and kind of usurps that dream, and then he has power over both of them. There would be a mechanic that would allow us to not have him grow an entire
Another
counter
thing
cult.
is if he knows whose dream he is in, couldn't he, like, supposedly, if there's enough of a ruckus in that dream so that that person doesn't notice, he could put a sneaky on him. And then, you know, just take over the dream that way.
Yeah. That's true. You could just kind of cause a distraction by making a big disturbance around someone else.
I guess the
Or even
question.
bringing your own dream, but like, let's say he creates his own dream, crashes it into this dream, and then when everybody is like trying to understand what the hell is happening and what are these weird green creatures, he just goes, "Okay, I'm in control now."
I would like to take a step back before we continue and try to figure out what is Thang's goal after he decides to leave the cult.
To
'Cause-
not get disappeared.
Okay,
So,
so I would write
that
that
is
down. So
Thang's goal.
for one of his goals is staying alive. I mean, it's kind of mundane as a goal, but I mean, it is his goal after all.
Yeah, go
Then
after.
the question is, how does he go about that? Does he try to eliminate all of the Lexdiorum cultists? That would be one route. Is he trying to convince them to, well, just leave me alone? Can he try to negotiate this?
I guess
Is
he
that
could
a-
start with that. He could start with just trying to negotiate, leave me alone. And they just go,
Yeah.
no.
Okay, then when they say no, is his next step, is he trying to make sure that they can't invade his dreams anymore, or is he trying to take them out?
Well, maybe after they refuse to leave him alone, he could then go, oh, I really did do something morally wrong, didn't I? I have to make amends for this. So I'm going to take on the cult alone as like a one-man army.
That's gonna be difficult to explain why he would be able to do that then. Because from how we established the setting, it would, to me, seem like the cult leaders would be, well, more experienced with Ager Somniorum.
Yeah, that's true. They might just go, away with you, Nat.
Yeah. So
well, maybe he could recruit people who have previously been disappeared by Ager Somniorum. Not by Lex Deorum, sorry. So people who are still living in Ager Somniorum because they have been disappeared from the real world.
What about the cultists who get unalived? I mean, they remain in Ager Somniorum, but
Yes,
where
they do.
are they?
They can go anywhere in Ager Somniorum. So,
But wouldn't the cult try to, like, keep them somewhere safe?
Yeah, like aren't they monitored?
well, they believe that Ager Somniorum is the real world now. Some of them may stop believing that and then go, oh wow, I just got unalived, but...
So that's the... I guess that would be the, well, maybe not most obvious, but the most probable route for him to go down. Like, okay, sorry that I unalived you, but maybe you can help me to not get unalived now?
Yeah, so maybe
And
actually...
I know you because we were in the same cult, so...
Ironically, goes to David for help.
Yeah.
I mean, another way is that he could go to like. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily make sense that this is the first time anybody's ever discovered that place. So there could potentially be some people in there that have been unalived, like by some previous cult many years ago, couldn't they?
Well,
I mean,
then they've probably died of old age by now, and they're in the dead person section. But... So the way it works is Ager Somniorum is an infinite flat plane, and you have the crystals. Okay, let's see. Putting way too much effort into this crystal.
It's a nice crystal, though. And now it's a nice triangle.
Okay, and... there we go. So you have crystals, etc. I'm just going to copy and paste this. Because I'm lazy.
That's not lazy. That's efficient.
So
Sounds like something I would put in a shot.
I'm not lazy. I'm efficient. Yeah, that's the programming mantra.
No, the programming mantra is like that's one half of it. The other half is, oh, believe me, re-implementing this entire library was important.
Yeah.
Mm.
So you have living people with crystals and that up here, and then you have. Now this one's gonna be weird.
Then we have the Australians on the other side.
Yes, the Australians.
And you're saying the dead people cannot cross back?
I mean, they can cross into Ager Somniorum, yeah, but they just generally
they
don't.
can't.
Yeah, they can. They just
So-
generally don't.
So what I'm thinking is potentially a dead person that is very much like opposed to the cult. Either maybe someone who like that would be a bit of like that would sound like a bit of a stretch, but like maybe someone who either saw like a previous cult do the same thing and is against the entire idea, or just someone that this cult killed and they're like, yeah, I'm not done yet. And so they cross back and they see him like in his dream or something, and they see, oh, you are kind of opposed. Cool, we can work. We can make something work here. And they teach him like the basics he needs to at least have a fighting chance.
And we have a training montage.
Carbon.
Not necessarily a training montage, even. Yeah, you're putting a lot of effort into that, I see. But like,
Carbon.
not necessarily a training montage. It could
What?
even just be, them just teaching him the basics, or them like coming
Hey, there
to
are a lot of dead people.
I just wanted to
Oh,
say I
like,
see
them
dead
literally
people.
coming there to save him once and going like, "You owe me one," or something like that.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, how do you deal with the cult without them, for example, indefinitely trapping them into a dream so they can't do any bad things anymore? Because if they trapped in Ager Somniorum, but
Obviously, we don't want to unalive the cult, because that would be kind of just counterintuitive. You're going, I'm against this thing, so I'm going to do this thing to the people who do this thing. That would be like Dexter. I'm against serial killers, so I'm going to kill serial killers.
This blade has killed many people, wielding the youngling slayer 9000.
okay, but if you can't negotiate with them, and if you can't stop them from doing their things, like, what are you gonna do? You could either just make sure that they're not gonna interfere with yourself, or you could try to stop them.
Maybe there's some way to strip them of their power, like the end of a Last Airbender.
I guess
Wait,
if that's
so
an
if he
option.
kills them in the real world, like asking that for a moment, okay? Bear with me. If he kills them in the real world, that's not gonna stop them, right?
I mean, it will, because
It will.
they have no more financial gain that they can get.
Yeah, but
So
they
both will just be a bunch of annoying dead assholes.
I mean, I guess they
like-
could just go vengeance afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, killing them in the real world might not work because they just kind of turn into endgame Thanos, basically.
I guess another question is, what's the motivation for people in the real world if they know they will just end up in Ager Somniorum eventually anyway?
Well, one of the things is they get to speak to their dead relatives and that who are on this side, because not everyone can do that. Not everyone has learned how to switch over. In fact, very few people have. But if you have learned, then you can take other people with you. And so
Yeah,
they
but
kind of...
if you know you end up in Ager Somniorum anyway, and you really want to go and talk to your dead relatives, okay, this sounds terrible, but why don't you just kill yourself and go there? Like, cut some corners. Like, I don't
Cut
know.
out the middleman, yeah.
Yeah,
Quite literally cut out the
exactly.
middleman.
Why wait another few decades? So
Again, quite literally cut out the middleman. Yes.
Well, because there is still some inherent value to being alive in the regular world.
how
And
so?
because Ager Somniorum,
You're entering dangerous territories here.
Ager Somniorum still judges you for being morally good or bad. Or at
How
least
does the
that's what the cult says. The cult
Okay.
claims that Ager Somniorum judges you. But no one actually
Okay.
knows if it does or not. So they go, oh, well, if you're a bad person, then you will you will have a nightmare for your afterlife. But if you're
we
a
should
good
probably write that down. That's part of their teachings.
person, yeah, I'll put it elsewhere. Like over here.
Okay, but if I put myself in Tang's shoes, then now if he comes to the conclusion that Lex Deorum is bad, wouldn't he think that Ager Somniorum is gonna judge them? But Ager Somniorum doesn't prevent them from doing what they're doing, so either he must come to the conclusion that Ager Somniorum doesn't judge people, or that what the cult is doing is good.
Well, you don't actually know. They don't actually know if Ager Somniorum judges people for their life or not. They don't know if they give them nightmares, if they were evil in their life, or if they give them dreams if they were good in their life. No one actually knows that. But the cult still says, oh yeah, that's what happens, totally.
Yeah, but if Tang goes against the cult, okay, is that teaching, does that only pertain to people who are dead or who are alive as well?
Only people who are dead.
Okay, because that's,
They
I
said
think,
their
also an important
teaching
caveat.
is it doesn't judge you while you're alive. It just doesn't interfere with the living. That Ager
Okay.
Somniorum does not interfere with the world of the living, but it judges the dead.
I mean, there are two more ways I can think of how, to get the ending that isn't that is not necessarily bad. One of which is destroying the thing, which obviously I think is a problem.
You can't destroy Ager Somniorum. How would you do that?
I mean, ask Persona, they did the same thing.
Ask what?
Persona 5. Oh wait, I should probably say that is a spoiler. Oops. But yeah, they
I've
pretty
never
much
heard of
series.
Persona 5.
basically they have a world that it's like the public subconscious that was created by some evil god trying to harvest the entire thing for a stupid bet. And basically they in there the metaverse thing, if you call it, is the public subconscious for all bad things. So they purify it and then it's gone. The ending was confusing. Okay, somebody else might be able to explain it better, but it was confusing. Anyways, so you could go down that route, or you could go down a similar route of, if you don't want to destroy the entire thing, which is fair,
Well, you
of him
can't.
finding some
It's
way to
impossible.
disrupt.
Even if it wasn't impossible, it would be kind of bad
Yeah.
for his intent of, placing the story in it a few years
Yeah.
afterwards. So.
Yeah.
But one thing that would be interesting is perhaps making it a lot harder to access for a while. So, potentially releasing some very angry dead people in there that make sure that you can't interfere for, as long as they're angry, basically.
What about time zones in Ager Somniorum, or just time in general? Because, for example, this cultist meeting, for example, if time would work I guess linear.
Well, time can expand and contract in Ager Somniorum in very weird ways.
Yeah.
It's not.
So
It's not linear. It's a big ball of wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff. Please don't sue me.
well,
So
but up to which extent, I guess, is the question.
Up to the extent that you could be in a dream with someone that the in-dream time was 8 hours. For that person, it took the entire 8 hours. For you, it only took several minutes.
Okay, but could it also be like someone dreams in, I don't know, let's say 1980, and then someone dreams in 1982, and they meet in the dream. And for the guy in 1980, it took a whole 2 years to meet, but for the other guy, it was like a minute or something like that.
and suddenly you get the plot of Your Name.
Uh,
Um,
I haven't watched that anime yet, so no
it's a good
spoilers,
movie.
please. Yes,
I'm not gonna
and
spoil how
that's
that
why
actually links, but it's obvious
why
that it links to
people
dreams. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
Do I have
Okay.
enough dead people yet?
Nah, I think you need a few more.
I mean, I guess it depends on how many you want to represent in there, right? Like, if you want to
We're reaching
get the whole
ALG
human
level.
population there.
Please keep going.
I mean, we clearly don't have the actual number of dead people in the world.
Hmm.
And for some reason,
Yeah.
like a third of them are missing a leg.
And that also like it also depends on like, do you count just dead people? How about potentially like dead animals?
That's true. I've never drawn a dog upside down.
Okay, so what's our plan with continuing the story so far? Oh,
I would
is
say
he gonna go to David? Is this a plot point that we can agree on or not?
I'm not.
I would say his best bet in general for like disrupting the entire cult thing is probably finding some way to basically interfere between them and like this dream world, because
That is
like
a terrible dog. I want to
like
see what
the
it looks
only way
like.
I can think of for him to actually be able to do like anything is if he can interfere in the connection, because as long as they exist, even if they're dead, they're still going to be out for blood.
Yeah, that's kind of I guess, the crux of it. The
So
right word?
intervention is his only real way, just intervening in the way that they link to this thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just kind of minimizing the power that they actually have would really be his only option.
Yeah. Which involves either like targeting this world itself, which is a problem, or finding some way to for example, add so much noise that they can't control it, or add some spirits that will make sure that every time they try to use their power, like have these dead people just angrily go, "You shall not do that," and then screaming in their ears or something.
I think I like
Or
the
finding
idea
the
of
deepest,
actually.
darkest feels.
I think I like the idea of actually getting all of the dead people together to basically just jump into the bad guys' dreams whenever they're trying to do something bad, and basically just haunt them and attack their dreams and just cause chaos when they're trying to do bad things.
Yeah.
How
I
can
think-
you combat people when you're in the actual Ager Somniorum?
How can you what?
How can you fight with people or prevent them from doing something if they're not in one of their dreams?
Well, you can stab them. That would work.
Yeah, but they're not gonna die.
No, they're just gonna wake up. But still. Well, actually,
Yeah,
they
and
can
if-
get sent back to their
If
dreams.
you die in a dream, you die in real life.
No.
Well, I guess that would be one option then. That
I would say either like get the dead people involved, or another option is to find out the cult, like basically to disrupt the cult itself by messing with the deepest, darkest fears. A bit of a cliche, I know, but also like messing with the fears.
So that would mean actually going into their dreams and manipulating them with your own imagination.
Yeah. So the deepest, darkest fears, going full Inception and getting thoughts planted into their brains. So suddenly they think that the cult is collapsing. Like, so one cult leader thinks that another cult
but you
leader
would have to do that for all of the cultists.
That
and
feels too
you're only one
derivative as
person.
well. That also
You
feels
only need
kind of
to talk
too
to the
derivative.
leaders.
That also kind of feels too derivative of Inception.
Yes.
Because that's like literally the exact plot
Yeah.
of Inception.
Well, not the plot, but the premise of it.
In Fells, we also tried to find out information before we did that.
Well,
but yeah, that's...
But
Yeah.
I prefer the thing of going into dead people land and going, I know there's a culture here of just going, don't interfere with the living world, but go and interfere with the living world. And then you can have an arbitrary romance subplot with some dead girl. I'm kidding.
I don't
I
like
personally
the
would-
sentence makes complete sense.
I think the best way I would solve it is for Thang to basically collect all of the cultists. Well, okay, I guess that's a question I have to ask before.
He could also collect all the
presenting
Dragon
my
Balls.
conclusion.
No, he is not
No.
collecting the Dragon Balls.
Aw.
No. If you dream, you're in this crystal, right? Well, let's say
If you
the
are
dream
in
is
your
in-
own dream, yes, everyone's dream is represented as a
Okay.
crystal.
if you wake up, does this crystal vanish? And
Yes.
then if you dream again and do? Okay.
The
the
crystal
location
vanishes
of-
when you're awake.
And the location of these crystals, is that random?
It's
So-
reciprocal space.
It's what?
Reciprocal space based on coordinates on Earth. You know
Oh,
what
okay.
reciprocal space is, right? So reciprocal space is... So if your position is... What the hell just happened? Whoa, that's a lot of people. A lot of upside down people. Anyway, let me get back to...
Almost looks like an SCP article.
True. Kind of.
Maybe Ager Somniorum is an SCP.
Everything is an
Maybe.
SCP if you're brave enough.
Plot twist. Ager Somniorum is an SCP. But, what was I saying? So if your distance from someone is X in the real world, then it is 1 on X in Ager Somniorum. It is reciprocal space.
Okay.
So it's basically like the Nether. It's a lot faster to travel there.
I mean, you don't travel in the real world if you travel on Ager Somniorum, so...
Yeah, you don't actually travel in the real world. Although, technically it is possible to travel in Ager Somniorum if you have the means to do so. You can technically actually jump yourself out of your crystal, walk off somewhere else, and then actually imagine your crystal into existence in that position, then go into your crystal and your body will physically move into that spot. Although you could be in an active volcano, so I would not recommend it.
You should probably write that down somewhere so we know that as a plot or like a mechanic, because I'm sure I'm going to forget that.
I mean, you don't... It's not going to come into it in this case.
Okay, you know what? Actually, it doesn't.
It sounds like a cool plot.
You don't have to write that down because we have all of this recorded, so I guess it doesn't matter. So
But that is a
I,
mechanic.
Yeah,
so
I
it's
can just go
recorded.
back to it.
if you are
It's a recording. You can't index it.
Yeah, if you are really good at doing the calculations for reciprocal space, then you could travel to an exact location if you wanted to.
I mean, you could just, I don't know, get the location of a bench in an airport and just. I mean, you should be able to get decent.
Yeah, but you actually need
wait.
to do the calculation for reciprocal space.
Yeah, you have to do it for, I guess. Yeah, okay.
Because, like, if two people are 2,000 meters apart in the real world, then there will be 1 on 2,000, whatever unit this is, arbitrary units.
True. Okay.
So, like, people on opposite sides of the Earth their crystals are right next to each other. Also, the crystals move around within the reciprocal lattice. And there is technically a scientific or a mathematical formula that you can write for predicting where any crystal will be at any given time. It is a time-dependent reciprocal lattice that can also be subject to the Schrödinger equation based on the potential wells that exist between separate crystals of people who have emotional attachment to each other.
Oof, okay.
There is maths. There is actual maths involved, and we are not going into that because it is complicated.
Okay, so my solution would have been that Thang tries to basically find all the crystals of all the cult members and then basically envelop them in his own crystal.
Well, it wouldn't be hard to
and
find
maybe
those
then
crystals.
Another crystal. Huh?
Because it wouldn't be hard to find the crystals. He can just stand in Ager Somniorum and then just go, imagine weird wavy flashback effect that you get in all the TV shows. And then he would imagine, I want to be next to the crystal of this person, and Ager Somniorum would go, okay, here you go. That's how Ager Somniorum works. That's how the cult recruiters are able to find people. They see a loner in real life and they go, imagine that, and then they imagine that person, and then they pop up at that crystal. Or if their imagination is super strong, you can actually pull someone out of their dream into your dream.
Yeah, the thing about my solution would have been that these crystals would need to be persistent for it to work, because otherwise there wouldn't really be a point to it. So the solution would have been to get all these crystals of the cult members, envelop them in his own dream, then maybe another layer and another, and so on and so forth, until the point where they think they're in the real Ager Somniorum again, but actually they're not, and that's how he makes sure they're never really interacting with the real Ager Somniorum anymore, so he can just go to bed safely.
Yeah.
But I guess that doesn't really work.
But they would notice, because they'd wake up in the real world and they'd go, I'm going to imagine some money into existence. Wait, what? That didn't work?
Yeah, but I mean, if he makes the layers of crystals around their crystals infinitely like infinite in number, then they couldn't break out of it. But I guess that doesn't work with how crystals work in Ager Somniorum, so I guess.
I mean, we can just say that the crystals work in a different way. I do not intend on actually explaining the reciprocal lattice thing in any novel or story that comes from it.
Yeah, that's probably a good attitude.
Yeah, I do not intend on explaining some weird mathematical thing that I decided on, so we can just pretend it doesn't exist and make up house rules for the specific story.
Making up house rules is always a good idea.
This sounds like we're playing Uno now. This is the actual makers of the game say you can't stack +2s and +4s, and everyone just goes house rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the better rule, so. Do we want to stop here or keep on brainstorming?
I would like to stop here because it is 11 o'clock.
Yeah. I mean, we got to the point.
Weakness to me.
We got to the point where we at least figured out that he's gonna go to David.
Yeah.
To get some ideas.
And then potentially talk to dead people.
Yeah.
Potentially. Actually seance.
So we're not gonna go with the proposition that I made, right?
No, we are
just
not
for
crashing.
clarification.
We are not crashing crystals into other crystals.
Okay.
We are not doing a weird TARDIS thing that you smash two TARDISes into each other.
Or reverse inception.
Yeah. So yeah, this is now an SCP. Yes. So where is my mouse? I cannot find it.
Honestly, now that you said it, it kind of reminds me of an SCP that I read,
Where is it?
but I don't know its number anymore. So, Carbon, what are gonna be your closing remarks for this episode or this session?
My closing remarks will be that we have decided on the next few plot points for this story. We don't know exactly how it's going to be resolved, but we know what the next plot points are. And so, if anyone would like to write a continuation, I will definitely write a continuation of this, but if anyone else wants to, they may. And we will pick which one we like the most. And we will continue once we have a continuation. And so thank you for watching, and please watch the next episode and like and subscribe because the YouTube algorithm likes that kind of thing.
Oh, we're already referring to the YouTube algorithm. Okay, we're set. We're set, everybody. This is serious.
Alright, bye.